Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to have you all with me. Yes. You guys are listening, you're faithful, and this week I am joined by my very best friend, Krystal Dorris. Hello, my imaginary signboard. Oh, sometimes I speak so fast that I mispronounce words, y'all. It's the thing. It just happens.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's okay.
So, so Krystal, me and her have grown up together. We've been best friends since we were 12 years old. We met in the 7th grade.
Yes.
And Chrissy, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 27 years old. I am a baker. I am a project manager. I work in telecom. I work in catering. I do everything. And I want to just give good food to people, help people get relief through medicated foods, and, just make my family and my people, proud. That's all I want to do. Yeah.
So, guys, we're filming this in April. Not to date the episode, but it's going to be coming out a lot later. But she was recently featured on Baller Alert. Yes. Her brand is called Sweet Remedy. So she was on there on 420 for just Black-owned brands in the cannabis space. And we can have a whole episode about that later. But this week, we are getting into relationship restoration.
Yes.
So, me and Chrissy, as I said, we've been best friends since we were 12 years old. But with that comes a lot of growing and a lot of changing and a lot of, hiccups. So along the years, we did fall out for a point in time.
It's
but
15 years.
15 years of friendship.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's a long time.
I feel old. You just aged me. I'm supposed to be 25 plus, Chris. I'm supposed to, you know what? I'm 25.
Sorry, girl.
Just
it's fine.
for the rest of my life. Just
okay.
no number after the 20.
That's it.
Just fine. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I straightened my hair. I'm in my bag. Beyonce got me feeling myself. But so I really want to get into this topic though of relationship restoration, because I feel like we've been diving into this season about things that break our heart to find out how deep our love is. And when you go through anything, you fall out with a family member, you fall out with a friend, you fall out with someone because you've broken up in a relationship. You learn a lot about yourself. And if you don't learn a lot about yourself, you'll just stay in a cycle of repeating the same mistakes. Whether it's being with friends that you fall out with, just having constant toxic relationships with your family members or anything like that. So I feel like relationship restoration is a really big part of this self-discovery journey.
It is. It's one of the most important parts. You have to restore yourself so that you can give your best self to others and have better relationships.
Yeah. So let's get into it.
Yes.
Transitioning into story time. So usually during this segment, I find a story, but since we're talking about our friendship and all of that, I think that it's better that we just tell our own story.
Yes.
So a little history about us. Like I said, we met when we were in the 7th grade. And mind you, me and Krystal are both about 5'10" now. Yeah. And we joke about how when we met, we were shrimps, because when we met, we were like 5'2", 5'3".
And the same exact height throughout life.
Yeah, like we grew together. Like we got tall together. It's just, it's insane. Yeah. And we bonded over so many things. Like one of my favorite things I liked about Krystal is when I first met her, she was in Algebra 1. So she was in like an advanced math class. And I was like, ooh, girl, you smart. Okay, I like smart people. Like, yeah, let's be smart together, So we grew up like that. And we were in middle school together. And then in high school, what happened?
In high school, we went to different schools. I moved to Brentwood, and she was at Deer Valley, and so that was kind of like a beginning of not a separation. However, we did live down the street from each other, so we still were able to keep our relationship together. But after high school, when Jazzmyne went to college at Northridge, I got sick, and things kind of took a turn. We started to grow apart just because, again, she moved away. We're teenagers. We don't know any better. We graduated around 17, so we just didn't know any better. And with me being sick, others did not have the understanding of what I needed in terms of support. And so we just had discrepancies between us and what we felt, we should be doing for each other. And again, we were all young and dumb and just doing the best we could.
Yeah. And I mean, in high school, like, the bond was like inseparable. So for people who don't know, you know, we're from the Bay Area. You might not know where Brentwood is or Antioch is or Deer Valley is, but you know, I went to a school which was like the next city over, but I lived in the same city as her, in the same community. So I would walk to her house all the time. Like, come junior year, we were kind of inseparable, and her
Literally
family became
together.
my family. Her family took me on trips with them. Like, we would spend holidays together. Like, when I would come home, her mom would be like, Jazz, where are you going? And I'm like, Mom, I have to go visit my mom.
Right.
Like,
Other family.
when I moved, so when I would like move to LA and like come back, she'd be like, where are you going? And I'm like, girl, I have
a family.
Right.
Okay, like, not just you.
So yeah, so it was more than a friendship. It was like a real strong bond. But as she said, when, you know, life changes and life shifts, and when I went to college, I moved to Los Angeles, which is 300 miles away from the Bay Area. And, you know, Krystal was always supposed to come to college with me. We were supposed to do this whole thing together. We were supposed to be roommates. We were supposed to go to school together. We were supposed to do all that. But then she got sick, and sorry, I like immediately almost started crying. Like, that's wow. Okay.
Oh, Jazz.
No, it's unexpected. I didn't know that would feel like that. But yeah, like it's messed up because you look back on it, and I've grown, but it's just like you don't know how to deal with someone who's close to you and in your everyday life when they get sick. So all I did was focus on myself and the things that I was doing because that's what I had control over. So sorry, dog. I didn't mean to start crying. I'm like, what?
Look, I ain't gonna be crying now.
Don't cry, no.
I ain't gonna be crying now, girl.
Don't you cry. Yeah. I'm the baby. I'm the crier.
It's okay. But you were doing your best. You were doing what you knew to do. I mean, again, we graduated young. We graduated a year ahead of like most of our peers.
Yeah.
You know, and just at that time, I didn't even know how to ask, or I couldn't, rather. I was diagnosed within 4 to 5 months with Graves' disease, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, iron deficiency, anemia, and a host of other things.
It was like a domino effect. Like every time we talked, it was another illness
it was
added on
new.
to it.
Yeah, and it was just a really
and more symptoms
time.
And more pain. And, you know, there was stuff that she wouldn't talk to me about because she would only be awake for 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you don't know that. You just think that she's just out there living her life,
chilling, but
you know,
sleeping, and my
like
mom was giving me like baths. Like, it was a bad time, so I didn't want to burden you.
Right,
you were having fun,
right?
So,
and that's that's crazy. But yeah, so we grew apart just because of distance and growing up and all of those good kinds of things. And then we ended up completely falling out over like a minor like issue, but it wasn't the issue. It was everything that had built up to that issue.
Of the iceberg,
right? And so it was just like the first, because me and Krystal, we don't really argue like that. Like we disagree with each other, but we don't argue. We have like debates. Yeah. And then at the end of the debates, we'll just be like, you know, like it is what it is. We respect each other, and we don't even always agree. Like we'll just at the end of the debate be like, well, you know, that's how you feel, and this is how I feel, and we ain't got to feel the same way.
Okay. That's all it is.
So like we have like one argument, and then that just spiraled. And for me, I was just like, where did this all come from? You know, because I didn't know how I had been offending you, and I didn't know, you know, the things that I was doing. I didn't know how my actions were affecting you. And so when it was just like, I'm good off you, and I'm like, okay, you know, like I was just, you know, I did, you know, the focus on myself thing, and just like, okay, well, you know,
I didn't explain as well, but like in the moment, it's like, you know,
I was angry.
I was tired a lot. I was still sleeping a lot, still like getting iron infusions at the oncology centers. And it was like, I didn't have it to tell her, which is something that, you know, I definitely think in restoring relationships, you have to be open and you have to communicate back and forth with each other about what's bothering you. Otherwise, nothing's going to change.
Yeah. So that is our story for story time. So I wanted to just bring us up to the point where we fell out, and then I want to transition into our keep it real session, because this is a good part. This is where we're talking about the work. We're talking about what it takes to repair a relationship or restore a friendship, because I went online just like to do research, because I do research for all of these episodes on what we're going to talk about. Yeah. And all of the advice is so generic. They're like, offer to give your friend a hug. Just let them know that you're there. And I'm like, bruh,
it's not gonna work.
Is putting a Band-Aid on a fucking open wound that needs surgery. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is nothing. So when, the work, it's going to be different. And I can't tell you how to repair your relationship with your man if he cheated. I can't tell you how to repair your relationship with your father if he abandoned you. But all I can tell you is everything is a case-by-case basis, and everything, it always takes work. And there has to be two people who are willing to do the work. So for me and Krystal, like I said, we're family. So that friendship isn't something you can just easily throw away. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, at the time, like, I really thought that she was done with me and never wanted to be friends with me again. But in reality, I mean, Chris, what were you going through?
Well, in reality, like, I just needed to focus on myself, and I needed to understand, one, what I was going through, get my health back. And I always would say, I need time right now. And I think everyone took it as like an absolute thing. But I always would be like, not right now. I don't want to talk to her right now. I don't want to be around her right now. And everyone was like, well, why not? We want the friends group back and this and that. So, I mean, I just needed time for myself and just to work on, how I set boundaries, how I allow others to treat me. And then more so also, I was definitely, we're rescuers, in our relationships with others. And I felt like I couldn't burden people with what I was going through. I felt like if I told you my problems, you have your own. So like, just tell me yours. And like, I'm not going to tell you mine. And I definitely was just going through a time where I had to really be honest with myself and with my friends. If I didn't feel good, or if I was going through, just anything, I had to be honest. Yeah. And so it was a time of like self-reflection, self-discovery, and literal physical healing, and getting all that together, and 7 surgeries later. And yeah,
because you like, the thing is, like, people think that emotions are just emotions, they're just feelings. They don't, your mental health, it's all in your mind. It's a mindset. You can do whatever to fit. And it's like, no, bruh, like, these, like, stress and all of these, they come with energy, they come with burdens. And Krystal was telling me earlier, she was like, I feel like the reason why I got sick was because I internalized everything that I was going through. I would never cry. I would never talk to anyone about it. I would never do any of that. And what it did was it caused stress on my body to where my body started to break down.
Yes. And empathizing with others, taking on people's emotions. I was always like, oh, like, come, I'll make you feel better. And like, it literally was wearing on my heart because I was taking everyone's burdens on. Yeah. And it stresses you. Yeah. And it stress you to death.
Like she said earlier, like, we're both what I would call rescuers. So for every victim, there's a rescuer. There's that person who, when someone tells you something, they want to fix it. They want to help. They want to, change it. And we're super empathetic. We're both rescuers. But with that, a lot of times you're not vulnerable. And I've changed that for sure. I've just become an open book, because you know what? Yes. When I need help, ain't no shame in my game. Look, okay?
Closed mouth does not get fed.
Jesus, my pastor, my spiritual mother, just everyone. I'm calling the hotline, okay? Because it just doesn't help to internalize it. It doesn't help to not talk to anyone about it. And also, I'm the kind of person where it's like, I can feel my feelings, but I don't want to feel them longer than I have to. Like, I'm not trying to be depressed for longer than I have to be. I don't want to be sad longer than I have to be. I don't want to be angry longer than I have to be. So I'm very... And that messes me up, though, because sometimes I'm quick to anger, but I'm also quick to cool down, because it's just like... Right. And I don't know, bro. I don't know what that is. Yeah. So, like I said, the work... That's step number 1. It takes 2 willing parties who want to do work. And while we weren't friends, we were doing work individually on ourselves. So Krystal what are some things that you learned about yourself during that time? And what made you want like us to have a friendship again? Because the ball was in your court, because it's just like there was nothing I could do to make us be friends. Yeah. So, you know, it ultimately came down to you. So what was that shifting thing that made you be like, you know what? I miss my friend. Like,
well, like the physical thing that happened is I ran into her mom at the taqueria, and I felt bad because I was like, I love her mom, but like I'm mad at her. So like, but I wanted to like, you know, I missed her family, and I was like, dang, I miss this friendship. And for me, I realized that I was internalizing things that I shouldn't have been. Like, I was thinking, well, they're doing this and this to me. And really, in reality, they weren't doing anything to me. It was just people living their lives. They're, you know, teenagers just fresh off to college. You're out the state, you're out the city, you doing you. And so I was internalizing it. And I learned I can't personalize things and make it about me. I can't say, well, they did this to me. In reality, most people are just trying to make it through the day. And they're not thinking about, well, if I do this, I'm going to hurt Jazzmyne's feelings, and I'm glad about it. Like, they're out just trying to live their best lives. Yeah. So that's one thing I learned. And then I learned / I guess I realized something my grandma used to tell me. She said, don't forgive and forget, forgive and adjust your expectations. And with that, when you forgive someone, you have to understand that I'm forgiving you, but that may be your character, that may be who you are. And if I'm going to forgive you and still love you, I have to accept who you are and your flaws. But so that I don't get hurt, I have to adjust my expectations. So I have to adjust, you know, instead of expecting this much from you, I'm expecting now this much. Right. So I definitely feel like, you know, you have to adjust your expectations so that you don't get hurt by the same things over and over again. Instead, just that's who they are. You know, if, you know, you're someone that cats off, you know, you cat off, you know, or if you're someone that's just, you know.
Cat off means that you flake. Yes. You're flaky.
Yes. If you flake, you flake. You know, and like if you know that's who you are, then like that's it. Not saying it's Jazzmyne, but an example. You know, and so it's just like you have to take people for who they are, and if you're gonna make the choice to forgive, you have to make the choice to adjust your expectations accordingly. So you can't be like, well, I'm mad at you for doing this, and it's like, well, that's who I was. You said you forgave me.
Right.
And so you forgave me.
Right.
So that's my definite biggest thing that I learned. My grandma always said that, and it just made sense to me. Like, if I'm going to be your friend, and I always missed your friendship, and I was always saying right now, but it just, I mean,
I wouldn't know. She wasn't talking to
you know, so. Right. I was like, not right now. And it just, all
I would get is just like, just reports back, because we have, it's not just us, you know, her sister Diamond was in my second episode. Like, we're family, and like, you know, other best friends. So it's and
cousins,
and as and cousins, and all of this, because like I said, we've known each other since we were 12. So it's, you know, we're like intertwined. So people are trying to plan trips, they're trying to plan birthdays, they're trying to do this, and you know, Krystal couldn't even be in a group chat with me. She would be like, why did you put me with her? You know I'm not talking to her right now. Like, and they would just always be reported back to me, and I'm like, dang, y'all, like I'm here. Like, I don't know, like I can't, you know. And so you know, it comes with it. And I think something that's really big with me and you is our expectations of reciprocity, or the expectations that we used to have, because me and you were always like that. We always gave each other the same amount of energy, you know what I'm saying? So we expected that from everyone, but to be honest, like she said, you've got to just change your expectations, meet them where they at. Don't expect them to, you know, to do those kinds of things.
That's just not who they are.
Exactly. And so it's like, you know, some friends get this level of friendship and some friends get this level of friendship, and it's not because you're on a different level, it's because this is what you give me, so this is what I'm going to give you. Right. If this is what you give me, then this is what I'm going to give you.
Exactly.
And that's funny that we just kind of learned that lesson separately and on our own while we weren't together.
Definitely.
And it's like, if we didn't have that time apart, I wonder if we would have learned that lesson, you know?
Probably not.
Probably not.
We wouldn't be friends, I don't think, if we hadn't taken the time, which is another key point.
Yeah.
Take the time. And for the friends of those, if you have friends that are going through something, give them the time, because you don't want to throw two people on a dinner cruise together and they fighting on a dinner cruise, child.
And now the relationship is
over.
ruined.
Okay, so like
irreparable.
Take the time. Let people have their time to heal. It's gonna come back together if it's meant to be. I mean, you know, as long as we've been friends, as long as we've known each other, it was always gonna come back. We just needed time to grow. And then another thing, it is definitely two parties both working.
Right.
I definitely was looking for like, hey, like I know I could have done things better, and that's really I was like, okay. Like, at least, you know, we acknowledge like that we both could have done things better, and then it was like, all right, let's move on now.
Right.
It is two parties, and I definitely agree that we both did the work. I did the work on not being so personal, and you know, you did yours.
I did the work on not being so like I guess selfish. Like I don't consider myself a selfish person, because I never.
It wasn't selfish.
Like I'm like
at the time, which everyone is, it was more self-centered. Like you believe your world is like that's it.
Right. It's just what I got going on and what's immediately. Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah.
Comes with the age.
Yeah. And I definitely did work about how like my anger, my communication.
Yes. Oh my God, we both did.
My communication style, that definitely, like literally, I was in an argument with a friend, and we call her mom, but it's her mom, but it's our mom. But mom was like, "You guys take it too far."
Yeah.
And we did. And nobody could talk to us the way that we talk to each other, but we used to tear each other apart when we were mad.
Pride wars, okay?
It was pride wars of who could make the other person hurt the most. And with me, I'll go back and forth with you, but at a certain point where I'm just like, all right, this isn't going anywhere, I'll be like, okay, this is dumb. Like, let's drop. Like, I'm, like I said, like I am quick to anger, but I'm also quick to calm down. But the thing is, the other person is not. They're still hot. They're still mad. They still want to go back and forth. They still want to drag you. They want to bring up everything that you hate about. You know what I'm saying? And I had to learn, like, Jazz, just don't even take it there, because you know how quickly you cool down, but you know that your words hurt. Your words hurt and your words cut. And I definitely, that's something that I can recognize about myself, is that my words can be very sharp, and I would always rest it on, well, I'm being honest. I'm telling the truth. Everybody wants a real one. Everyone wants someone who's going to keep it real with them, right? And it's like, girl, delivery, okay? Delivery, and also don't give unwarranted, unsolicited advice or feedback or you know what I'm saying?
Non-constructive criticism. It needs to make sense, and it needs to be applicable, and it needs to be constructive. Okay?
Well, yeah, definitely that.
Definitely
that.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's my thing too, is like I would always feel like, you know, well, I'm trying to help you out, and it's like sometimes people want to vent. They're not telling you all of this stuff to get help. Sometimes they just want to talk about it, because what would frustrate me, and not with you or anybody in our close friendship, is when people would come back to me telling me the same stories. Same stories about how they're not changing, and every time I'm pouring into you, trying to give you advice on how to heal, how to help, how to become the best you, all of these things, and you just don't listen to it and come back to me with the same stuff every time.
Like I can't. It's a waste of my time and my energy. Don't waste my energy. Okay,
right?
So I get it, girl.
So we reconciled, I think we fell out for maybe a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah. It was about, year and a half, 2. Yeah.
And then when we reconciled,
it felt longer.
It felt like a lifetime.
It felt like 10 years, child.
It felt like a really long time, but it had to be between like maybe.
It wasn't long.
21 to like 22 and a half. Like.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. It was short. It was definitely short.
It was definitely short. But after we, you know, reconciled and came back, there's also a period of rebuilding. We didn't just immediately start to, we didn't want to just go back to, we're picking it back up from where we were. It's like, no, we're different people now. We have to relearn who the other person is. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
definitely,
you know, and I think that's where a lot of people mess up is, you know, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
When people go on breaks, first off, don't break up.
Exactly.
Because you need the time apart to grow individually. And if you are meant to come back together,
you will.
You will.
But go on and break up.
But going on a break is leaving, you're still tethered to that person, you're still worried. How can you grow when you're still focused on that other person, their feelings, how your actions affect that person? Girl. You're still in a relationship.
Exactly.
What is the point? Like,
exactly. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm honestly at the point where it's just like, you know what? I just want to, well, let me not say that. Pause. But we went off topic. But no, but that's where people in relationships mess up, is when they go on breaks or when they break up. When they come back, they want to hit the unpause button and they want everything to go back to the way that it used to be. Well, if everything was peaches and cream when y'all were together, you wouldn't have broken up or taken a break.
So some actions have to change.
Some things have to change.
Definitely.
It can't just go back to what it used to be. And if you want that old thing back, then you should get in a time machine, because that old thing is where you left it.
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
You know? And that's my thing. We should always constantly be growing. And we're so fortunate to be in a friend group that supports each other, that uplifts each other, that we try to grow together. We try to be understanding. We're not you know, the kinds of people, and we're doing the work. Okay,
we
are
trying.
Doing the work. We are trying. And
okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, people have their moments where you go off, or we don't even go off on each other like that anymore. No, it's 0 or throwing hands at this. No way. No.
0 to 60.
0 to 6,000. But we're just at the point where it's just like, we don't always have to agree. You can feel how you feel. I can feel how I feel. And we're Gucci. Just respect each other. Always be respectful of what the other person has to say. And, you know, ultimately, you have to have respect, empathy, and, you know, we're built on respect, empathy, and reciprocity. Loyalty, yes.
And loyalty.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and our friend group, we value each other as women. We value what we all contribute. We all, you know what I'm saying? Everyone has different minds. We can agree on some things. We can disagree on some things. Yeah. But I like it because we're not surrounded by everybody who just is on the same accord. So, closing out this section about rebuilding relationships, something that I want to leave off on is, when you are rebuilding a relationship, you don't want to be dragged through the same issues or trauma that you went through previously, which is why I'm saying, like, don't pick up from, you know, where you left off, but also you're expecting that other person to grow. So something that I think is really beautiful that Krystal shared with me was, even though I wasn't there for her while she was sick, when she lost her grandmother, who was the glue of her entire family and was also her last living grandparent, it was a huge devastation to the entire family. Yeah. To the point where they couldn't lean on anyone because everyone was devastated. Her mother, her father, you know, her auntie, her cousins, her sister, like, everyone is completely devastated. And, you know, at that time, Krystal let me know, she's like, you know, I'm so glad that you were there for me. And
it was like nobody. You didn't have your cousins that you normally talk to. You could, like, not a soul. Yeah. Like, there was nobody, because everybody, and even friends, knew my grandma. I mean, I know you loved my grandma still. Of course, so, I mean, it was a very tough time, and I really appreciated and needed that support. So I appreciate that.
So, getting out of our Keep It Real session and going into our pocket picker-uppers.
Yes.
I want to wrap up this episode with some gems. So, one of the biggest things that I want to leave you guys with is your intent is not, you know, your intent isn't as big as your impact. So when you offend someone, whether it was intentional or not, you have to take into consideration how it impacted the other person. You can't just feel like, I'm not at fault because I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
I'm still hurt. Like,
Right.
that doesn't help the hurt feelings, dog. Like, I'm still hurt.
Like, over here. It's fine.
Right. So it's like, that was something that I learned while we, were separated, because like I said, I used to pride myself on being honest and truthful and keeping it real. And it's just like, but dog, it doesn't matter how you intended to deliver that advice as much as it impacted the person.
Yes.
So you have to be cognizant of how your actions affect other people, and you have to take accountability.
Yeah.
Whether you meant to offend them or not, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Be accountable for your actions.
Exactly.
So, Chris, what's your tip?
My tip is that even if you feel you've been done wrong, you do need to make sure that you see what you can do differently and how you can be accountable for yourself. For me, it was, I know I was hurt, but like, that doesn't give me carte blanche to like snap at people. Like, I can't just be like, well, you did this and this and talking crazy to people. Like, I still have to bring it to people in a manner where they can receive it. Because if I don't bring it in a receivable manner, they're not going to accept that tip. They're not going to hear what I'm saying. They're going to be in defense mode. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big tip for me, is that there's always two sides to everything. And even if you felt like, well, I didn't do anything, what you could have done is not set the boundary. What you could have done is not made the expectation for what you thought. What you could have done is, we could have said, hey, like, I expect this from you, or I expect you to, come and call me this many times. So set the expectation. That's all you need to do. Set that expectation and set your boundaries and look at what you can do to change the situation next time.
Yeah. And we mentioned it before, but I really cannot stress enough to not force things.
Do not force it.
Do not force things. People stay in relationships. People stay in friendships. People, just stay in contact with people they don't need to, just because, some people want to be loved. Some people want to have a lot of friends. Some people want to, a lot of people like to keep people on leashes for when they need them.
Like, oh, I need something. Okay.
And had we forced ourselves to be around each other and to be friends when we weren't ready to, it could have gotten worse. That's what you guys don't understand, is that when you force things, when it's not in alignment, when it's not when it's supposed to be, it's not going to be the results that you desire anyways.
It's not going to work.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
not going to work. And what it can end up doing is causing, like, if you take a break and pause, we can come back and heal. Or we can not pause, we can force it, and then we can, forever be damaged and never be able to heal. Exactly. And never be able to have any kind of relationship or friendship or anything. Exactly. So, don't prioritize. And a lot of people stay together, it's for the kids. Girls and guys, it ain't for the kids.
It's for you.
It's for you.
It's for you. Definitely.
Don't force it.
Definitely.
Okay. And Chris, your tip number 4? Pocket picker upper. Why am I calling these tips? They're pocket picker uppers, y'all. We need brand this.
And to kind of like piggyback off of her pocket picker upper, if you look at it in a metaphoric way, if you have a cut on your hand and you keep picking that scab off, a lot of people can't let it heal. You keep picking the scab off, trying to rush it because it's ugly and I don't like the scab. It's just going to keep bleeding and keep opening up, and it's going to take longer and longer. And what could have taken 3 weeks is now taking a year.
Right.
So stop picking the scabs.
Getting reset.
Stop picking the scabs.
Yeah.
And let it heal.
Yeah.
Just let it heal. Just let time heal the wounds. I can't tell a cut on my hand heal and it just heals. It's going to take time regardless. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And finally, the last picker upper I want to leave you guys with is have respect and empathy for one another. And that's how you deliver your messages, how you speak to people. If these people are your friends, if you care about them, cursing them out, telling them about all of their insecurities, and that because they're vulnerable with you, because they're your bet. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people just will bring up some of the most hurtful things.
Yes, girl.
And, and then just want to brush it over. Oh, girl, let's go. Let's go to the club. And it's like, horrible, detrimental. My gosh,
you just told me up last week.
I don't want to tell you nothing. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't, so it's like be respectful. Respect the person the way that you would want to be respected. And when I say have empathy, don't think about how you would feel. Think about how they would feel. Mm-hmm. Try to understand how they process their emotions when you're in any kind of, any kind of turmoil with anyone.
Definitely, yeah.
Because a lot of times all we think about is how we would do it, how we feel, what we care about. Yeah. I don't understand why she's doing that because I wouldn't. You ain't her. You ain't him. You know what I'm saying? You've never been there. Yeah. You've never been them. So, yes. Yeah. Well, definitely. That's all I got. Chrissy, you got anything else for the people?
Girl, that's it, y'all. That's all I got. Take your time, stop picking the scabs, and adjust your expectations. That's all I got.
Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of Pick Her Upper.